Well, hello, hello, hello. Hopefully, my mic is coming through nice and clear. Let me know if you hear anything, anyone, or if it's going up and down. It's nice to see so many of you here on a Monday evening, which is not my favorite day of the week, but I'm starting to like it more and more. The more the cases start picking up, and there's too much to do for just any old Tuesday. Uh, I'm the Monday is starting to fade away just a little bit, just a little bit. But I hope you're all doing well. Thank you, Juju. Yeah, right. Tuesday is a better day. Be right, student, because Tuesday is taco day. Everybody knows that. I like my tacos. So, hey, Tony, and always grateful. I see you guys just came in. Everybody else, I've been, hitting the keyboard and saying hello, but I won't be clicking anymore because I'll be talking. So, hope everybody's fine. Uh, and hope you had a great weekend anyway. I had a pretty decent one. Just read a lot, There's a lot going on. And we're going to keep you busy all week. It's going to be a very busy week. Like, we need to buckle up. I recommend roller skates and lots of caffeine. Hey, Rocket, how you doing? So, you'll notice I still don't have my ears, but I must say some compelling with a capital C and ending with an underlined G, very compelling information came my way. And I do believe we've got it cracked. Yeah, I'd like to ask you about that, Juju. Where are those ears? There are a few people I need to talk to. You're on the list. So are a couple of others. But I think I don't even have to ask where they are anymore. I'm making arrangements to pick them up. Because I think I know where they are. I think somebody's got some splaining to do. But we'll all talk about that towards the end of the week. I'll get it all together. Yes, you did help, Couch, in more than one way. You definitely helped. You definitely helped. Yep. All right. So today, just in case you didn't see the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about, anybody recognize him? Old SBF, former owner and pilferager of FTX here, crypto exchange, big, lives over there lived in the Bahamas, currently residing in jail because he did not like that $1 million bail. I mean, $250 million bail bond that his parents and everybody put up so he could stay free under the custody of his parents at their house. But no, he had to go make a bunch of violations to get his butt thrown in jail before the court, before the trial, which, by the way, is starting tomorrow. Hey, Boo. Oh, student, I see you're trying to educate record that it's actually voting. The New Zealand election is going on right now. Yeah. Well, did you vote, student? Yeah. I know, Juju, right? Like, let me put this one up. Can you imagine? I mean, this whole thing is going to be about entitlement. When you hear what's going on, I'm sure your ears are going to prick up a little bit. But Juju says, can you imagine having friends with that much cash? You can hit them up for 250 million. Hey, I would love to be able to hit up friends for 250 bucks. I mean, most of us don't even have that much that we could just like give away these days anyway. But 250 million, oh, I'd settle for like 2.5 million. At this point, I would settle for 250K. Hey, 25K, maybe 2,500. I mean, every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. Well, I can't even imagine. Not okay. Hey, KZG, how are you doing? All right. So, just in case You don't remember, but I'm thinking some of you do. Let's get talking about this guy. Let me just refresh your memory. Samuel Bankman-Fried was the former CEO of FTX, and he's been charged with fraud, conspiracy, bill pilfering, taking money from people and not doing what he said he was going to do. Misappropriation, bribery. He had 3 partners who pled against him, who have already pled guilty. Some of them have received their sentencing recommendations and charges, and they're all cooperating. There was a $250 million bond placed on him. As I said before, he was under house arrest with his parents. Last time we spoke, we were waiting for the Bahamas to approve additional charges. He was originally charged with seven criminal offenses, and we'll break those down in a little bit. But those 7 criminal offenses, as they looked into them, when they extradited him, he had 7 charges against him. They started extradition. They started the paperwork and doing some of the investigation, and then talking to people, came up with 5 more charges. But because he was already under the extradition process with the Bahamas, we needed Bahamas' permission to actually charge and go forward with those additional 5 charges here in the United States for a separate trial. This trial for the 7 original charges is starting tomorrow. Yep, actually tomorrow. And the additional 5 charges, which we now have permission and looks like it's going to go through March 2024. So depending on what happens with this trial tomorrow, which is starting jury selection and is slated to go about 6 weeks per the prosecutor and Judge Kaplan. By the way, this is Judge Lewis Kaplan in charge of this one again. You know, we love Judge Kaplan. Samuel Bankman-Fried had his bail revoked for witness tampering. Yeah, like big time. He intimidated Carolyn Ellison, who he lived with and whom was his former love interest, and has pled guilty and already given evidence to the FBI, and her affidavit's on file, and she will more than likely be taking the witness stand against him. Well, basically, he went and tried to give her private diaries of all of her work stuff and all of that, all of their correspondence back and forth to a reporter while he was on bond. Judge Kaplan didn't like that very much. He called that witness tampering, trying to pressure her into actually maybe tampering down some of her testimony or giving some additional information. Who knows? But Judge Kaplan didn't look at it kindly at all. Okay. He got, let me just find out. The second one was, oh boy. The second one was in regards to speaking to one of the FTX lawyers. He did correspond. All right, here he goes. Okay. FTX is the company that he was running at the time of all this fraud. That and Almeida. You get those 2 names are together. They're very well linked. One is the international company. The parent company is Almeida, and that was Samuel Bankman-Fried. And actual Caroline Ellison was the CEO. She was actually running that. He had stepped down a little bit, but he was on the board. It was still his baby, though. There was what they would call not properly routed or illegally tampered with transactions between Almeida and FTX in order to cover some deposits to the payers and stuff that just was not copacetic to be done. Now, the lawyers for FTX, which ended up filing bankruptcy after Samuel Bankman-Fried was asked to step down, they appointed someone else. John Ray went through the bankruptcy. They've got a ton of lawyers involved that were actually advising Samuel Bankman-Fried at the time. They were, whether you should step down, whether you should get a separate attorney, what does this look like, blah, 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 but basically one of them, while on house arrest, Sam Bankman-Fried, in encrypted emails and messages. Let me just say that again. In encrypted. In other words, psst, trying to hide it from everybody. Emails and messages, which the FBI found anyway. He was back and forth in touch with them on testimony and what should and should not be said. Now, the point being, he's not supposed to be in contact with anybody from FTX. And this lawyer is not his lawyer. And this is a big problem. And Judge Kaplan saw it that way too. And boom, nope, not getting out. And when asked if he could get out and stay someplace else during the trial, yes, people, when I said entitlement previously, like in the beginning, when Juju said, yeah, must be nice. Can you imagine the audacity to ask the court, oh, by the way, I'm under, I lost my house arrest for flagrantly disregarding the do not tamper with witnesses rule. But hey, do you mind if I stay in a cushy little hotel while the trial's going on? Because this jumpsuit's a little too tight. And the bread and water routine is really pissing me off. Can you imagine? I mean, if I sound snarky, damn well I am. Damn well I am. Can you believe that? How much disrespect? I mean, how much disrespect? I thought I had big ones. This guy takes the cake. Like, they're so inflatable. I'll bet you he's walking around with an air pump in his back pocket because this case, nobody could keep them that big all the time. Definitely walking around with an air pump. This guy's too much. This guy's definitely too much. Oh, and I did skip over the part that while he's there, the reason he probably wants to go to the hotel is because the vegan food that he requested, which they do have a vegan diet, which he is entitled to, but it doesn't have enough selections for him. So he's put himself on a bread and water routine. Yes, because the food just doesn't meet his standards. Yeah. So apparently, this is all par for the course for somebody who wants to fleece people from millions and millions of dollars. Okay. We're talking individuals. Okay. Getting fleeced millions and millions of dollars. Okay. Not good. Not good. Let's go on. The charges, 6 of them, all involve actual 6 of these charges are more severe than the 7th. They're all conspiracy and fraud. Okay. Currently, for the 7 charges that he'll be facing starting tomorrow with jury selection, are conspiracy to commit wire fraud on customers of FTX, which was the American-based part of FTX International, which was the crypto investment firm. They, because it is an American company, that's why they're filed bankruptcy here in America, and that's why the majority of the charges against Samuel Bankman-Fried are here in America because of SEC violations, Department of Justice violations, yada, 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 federal fraud and commissions, the FTC, the SEC. I could go on with enough individual initials to just drive myself and you crazy, but I think I'll just stop there. Wire fraud on customers of FTX, conspiracy to commit wire fraud on lenders to Alameda Research, because not only is it defrauding one company, FTX, by actually using Alameda for some of the financing and doing the transactions, he's actually committing fraud to them also. Wire fraud on lenders to Alameda Research. And the last 3, conspiracy to commit fraud on customers of FTX in connection with purchase and sale of derivatives. This is what gets him in trouble with the SEC and the FTA. Yes, yes, yes. This is actually illegal to not register your sales properly, to not indicate where they're going, why they're going, and who is actually requesting them. Conspiracy to commit securities fraud on investors in FTX. Well, if I invest in you and I think you're going to be paying paying attention to the laws and doing the right thing, when I lose a lot of money because you did something illegal, well, you just committed fraud on me, because nowhere in your brochure did it say you were going to be sitting in jail while you did this, dude. Yeah. Could you imagine if it actually said that in investment brochure? So, by the way, the CEO might be sitting in jail while we invest your money. No, actually, I just thought that was funny. Conspiracy to commit money laundering. Yes, he actually tried to put all of these funds to make more funds through multiple parts of his businesses that aren't connected. The only connection, the only connection is Samuel Bankman-Fried. Now, he is a very, very wealthy person, or was, or was. I'm going to leave it here, and then we'll go to the other. Let's talk more about the case. Because, all right, the defense for Samuel Bankman-Fried is Mark Cohen from Cohen and Something in New York. This is going to be tried in the U.S. Federal District Court in the Southern District of New York. We all know, SDNY. When you hear that, currently we've got several cases there with ex-President Donald J. Trump for fraud and illegal activities with money and some civil things going on. We got a lot going on in New York with Trump, okay? But this is also a monumental case. And the reason, it's not, you don't normally see me covering this financial stuff, right? And like, who really wants to talk about crypto? Because like, who the heck really understands much about crypto? But the reason that I wanted to actually delve into this one and to help everyone try to understand it is that this will be a landmark case in actually bringing someone forth from the crypto industry in investments and actually putting the screws to them for what they did wrong. This one is this one's worse than our biggest Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi king himself didn't get anywhere near the bond that Samuel Bankman-Fried did at 250 million. I think the Ponzi king only came in at like 11 million or 14 million, maybe, But this guy, actually, student, not that much considering, it's actually went to both parties. I do agree that a lot of money went to politicians because back in my first video, we explained that he was actually petitioning to Congress. He wanted to speak to Congress into the Senate because he wanted to help craft the regulation of cryptocurrency and have it sold on SEC in a different way. Currently, it does, you can do the crypto thing, but it actually gets converted before it is sold into everything that can be regulated through the SEC and the FTC. Okay, where they were looking to put new guidelines on anything, which is what probably led to some of the conspiracy that, yes, this multimillionaire out there with the bad attitude doing all this stuff is actually said to be the fall guy for everybody else, and that they're just picking on him. Get out your little violins, everybody. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But there were a bunch of failed deals, especially with CZ of Binance and a couple of others, maybe some bigger crypto places that really thought that he was bringing it to a place they didn't want to go. Because right now, as unregulated as it is, and I don't want to say too unregulated, there are restrictions on it. I don't want to say it's a free-for-all. It's not. But it is a very popular place for those that don't exactly want you to know how much they got. Put it. Now, I don't know a better way to say that. And so there may be, not being a conspiracist or anything, I would say there may be some reasons that some people may not have wanted Samuel Bankman-Fried with all of his money and all of his influence. I mean, his parents are Stanford professionals. Okay. And it comes from a very big family, and he's got a lot of connections. He's got a lot of money to do whatever he wanted. Maybe they just didn't want him speaking about regulating a very profitable business that nobody really wants anyone interfering with. Just saying. Just going to put that out there. But even if that's the case, even if they did, even if the conspiracy is true, which I doubt, but if it is, you know what? It doesn't mean he didn't do what he did. Because when they talk about this case, prosecution has put forward to defense that they have millions of pages to prove it. All kinds of transactions, every transactions. And you know what? This case, they're like, well, how are you going to prove it? Well, in transaction cases like this, and I say transaction because it's a plus and a minus, it's a column A and it's a column B. It's the books over there for that company versus the books over there for that company kind of thing. It's all in the audit trail. And those of you that aren't in business or accounting or bookkeeping may not understand terms like that, but the proof is always in the pudding. And that's a very common saying that some of our relatives may have said it. What it means is, well, once it's written down, it's pretty hard to take it back. And if you had to balance it for everything else, there's pretty good documentation on everywhere it goes. So when you go and do forensic accounting, which means let's go back and look at it all and find the evidence, it's all there in black and white. You just have to find it and know what you're looking for. All of it's going to be there. Every single transaction. There is no way to move money here in the United States that I know of that doesn't leave an audit trail. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but he's nailed. He's totally nailed. And who's going to nail him? Well, the prosecution has decided, because it's up to them to actually prove this fraud and all, and because there will be a jury, to actually present witnesses who were defrauded. Testimony from an unnamed man in Ukraine who lost everything. Several witnesses here who lost homes, businesses, college funds. They're coming in to tell their stories to the jury. That can be quite moving. That can be. But worse than that is, unfortunately, Samuel's own friends are going to be on that witness list. Now, Carolyn Ellison was his former love interest and head of CEO at Alameda Research. Gary Wang and Nishtar Singh all worked there in some very high capacity. And I also want to tell you that all three of them lived together. They played games together. They worked together. They did everything together. Okay. And those three have already pled guilty and signed deals. Yep. Already pled guilty and signed deals. That doesn't look good for Samuel, does it? I mean, when everybody who knows your private details and knows you so personally well have already pled guilty to the deeds, the same deeds that you're being accused of. And they've got the evidence. Like, what chance do you have? Okay. Well, that became kind of evident when we saw in the letter that the prosecution served to Judge Kaplan in a court prior to the weekend on the 30th, actually stating, where they're going to go with the testimony. It was with these three, couple of other officials in the FTX customers themselves. Those that were defrauded should have the largest voice, they said, into how the trial goes forward. And to me, I think that's justice. I do. I do. Hey, Skids Crasher, welcome. Mousy, you have a victim of SBF? Wow. In your house right now? That's terrible. The FTC won't let me be. So let me see. They tried to shut down my cryptocurrency, but it feels so empty without Freed. Oh, I love it. Can you hear that, Wrecker? The FTC won't let me be, or let me be, so let me see. I get it. Okay. Thank you, Tony. You just lightened my night. Like a lot. Thank you. I was getting a little tongue-tied here. Okay. Yep. He rallied behind Solana. Yes, Mrs. C, you saw some of this too, this crypto mess, because of the things that you were looking at and following. And yep, I get it. A lot. Everybody took a big hit when this all went down. Well, not everybody's getting charges, Nope, not everybody. Okay. I wonder if he has any connection to Lolita. Is that Lolita Island? I'm not sure, student. Mm, I'm not sure. Mm. So, hey, Mrs. Cassandra, it's good to see you. And Fish Nerd didn't say hi. Hey, how you doing? Mm. I know, Rhonda, I'm so sorry about all the initials. Like, can you imagine having to say that over and over and over again? Like, spare me, spare you, spare the world. I get it. I get it. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. I get it. You know, we have to laugh at ourselves. Yep, we do. All right. Mm. Oh, he said he just had to file to be part of a lawsuit to get his money back. Yes, with FTX they were. Actually, there's like a thing that goes with FTX. You got to go through the bankruptcy court. They're making a list of the victims and they're going to prorate all the proceeds because they actually want to reorganize. That's another little tidbit on the side here. FTX, which is no longer being run anything to do with Samuel Bankman-Fried, but does have a lot to do with the charges here and the customer base. Because they went through bankruptcy, there's all kinds of rules and regulations that they have to follow. They want to reorganize. Samuel Bankman-Fried, when arrested, actually said it was false. Like, I didn't commit fraud because the money was there and there is no FTX bankruptcy. They're just not looking at it right. Because when we went through our first video, remember there were like 15 different companies. They're international all over the place. The money goes from one to one to one to one to one all over in like a chain sporadically with no rhyme or reason. What he was insisting that when it came down to it, everything was solvent. But the problem was no one company can go not solvent, not be able to pay any customer's demand for money at any given time when the root of your business is getting money from people to invest in an account that you hold for them that's supposed to be earning interest going up and down based on value of something. Okay, but there's always supposed to be some money in there so that when you want to close out at whatever the rate is that day, you can get your money out. Problem being that the days that they are looking at with all of this, there was no way that FTX or Alameda Research could have covered this debt to the customers of FTX customers could not get their money out. FTX customers were complaining they had requested money for weeks and could not get their money out. The audit trail showed there was no money to get out. Then they found that he was investing money from Alameda into FTX outside of the regulation and the norm to cover things. He was moving things around like a shell game a little bit. And it was all outside of the regulations on how that should happen. Oh, you were invested in Solana at the time, Mrs. Cassandra, so then you got inside information too. Well, I hope that both you and Mousy Files, personally known victim, that you both can get solvent, you know. Record says the irony about crypto to being decentralized is that it's more traceable than normal money. Yes, that is a fair point. That's a fair point. It's harder. It's harder to hide it. You know what? Me too, Mousy. I don't know if it's because I'm old fashioned or it's not what I'm familiar with, but just how they get it, which when it was originally explained to me is the 0.000000000000001 that we fleece off every penny that doesn't get used or recorded everywhere in the world as far as banking goes. I don't know. Explain that to me. And there are machines that can capture these ill-gotten goods. I mean, technically it all belongs to somebody else, but they don't want it because it's too hard to collect it. So they bother to make all these retunes to collect it, and it takes all this energy even to get it to be something, and then they start trading the something around for imaginary money. It's kind of like you buy something that doesn't exist, and then you go to sell it, and it only exists if the other person sees it, but you really can't show it to them. Can you explain that to me? I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. It does. Mm. Hi, Isaiah. Nice to see you again. We're talking the financial crimes of Samuel Bankman-Fried and the FTX collapse, and he's going to court tomorrow in New York. Yeah. I have to thank Wrecker for when we first started with Samuel Bankman-Fried. It was because of some CoffeeZilla videos that we were watching, and I actually needed translation on this cryptocurrency lingo a lot, and Wrecker was the one who actually got me on board with that. Like we were doing what the F and stuff like that, because it really was mind-boggling for me. And I come from the business world. I mean, I can add 1 and 1 and get to 2, but if you start throwing crypto in there, I'm like, what? 27 zeros and a 0.1 half, and I'm supposed to do what with that? No, I just can't. I just can't. Mhm. It's like selling video game items. Yeah, yeah. It's like the plot to Superman 2, Tony. I don't even know what the plot to Superman 2 is, but yeah, it could be. It could be. Yeah. But anyway, I'm glad that though, Mrs. Cassandra, that you weren't too much, you didn't lose too much. Yes, this particular person was on a $250 million bond, Isaiah, which is like well over the 11 or 14 million that the Ponzi king himself here in the United States was on, Bernie Madoff, right? Eat your heart out. Exactly. This kid outdid Bernie Madoff. You've got it, Isaiah. That's exactly who I was talking about. He just like did him a solid. He was like, "Oh, well, I could do it so much better than Bernie," because he just did it off the charts. And not only that, he couldn't even stay out on his 250 million bond because he's such an entitled one. And he's a little weird. I don't want to even say he's like overly entitled, although he is extremely rich. He's got a lifestyle that would none of us could actually relate to. I doubt anyone here in the chat or anyone listening at any time to this video is going to be able to relate to his lifestyle. Well, maybe his current lifestyle behind bars, but not the one he was accustomed to before he was arrested and charged. You know, there are thank Grace. There are huge mining operations all over this country and all over the world, actually. But it's the mining process that turns that ill-gotten goods that nobody was paying attention to into something. You know what I mean? Like it actually turns it into something that they can get rid of, and it's a fascinating process, actually. Okay. All right, back to the case. There's some other interesting things that happen along with the case. As I said, his 3 roommates, the one being his former love interest, Caroline Ellison, who was the head of Alameda Research, is the main person who is going to be giving testimony and all. But we also have Gary Wang, and we've got Ninda Singh. They've all lived together. They're all friends. They used to play this chess game where you get 4 people and 2 boards and like you mix it up, and I forget what it's called, but that seems weird. I mean, I always thought chess was just like 2 people and like a concentration game of skill, and like you had to be strategy and think ahead. And I'm trying to think, you throw 4 people in there and 2 boards, and like, is that really chess? I don't know. But anyway, in Ellison's deal, she's going to be giving testimony and the process, as running the company and everything like that. Part of the evidence, like I said before, millions of pages of emails, records, documents, transfers, SEC, FTC, you name it, customer records, millions of pages they're talking about. All right, that's a lot to go through. That's going to be the bulk of the evidence. But they also have a recorded meeting of all staff Alameda Research when Carolyn Ellison was head, and she is there stating to the staffers that SBF, Samuel Bankman-Fried, moved money illegally out of there. He made a transfer he shouldn't have. And I'm like, huh? If they can put that where she's actually testifying to it and she would know she had personal means, she has to sign off on this stuff. Okay. She's saying she knew it was wrong. She shouldn't have did it. She actually has told the judge in her affidavit that she conspired with Bankman-Fried to lie to lenders and hide the true nature of the relationship between Alameda Research and FTX. And she says she's sorry for it and she knew it was wrong, and that is why she is just making sure that she just comes clean about it all. Okay. So the judge told her she could get 110 years in prison. And I don't know if she's going to get her actual sentencing until after all of this is done. Okay. But she could get 110 years for what she did. And she wasn't even the mastermind. Samuel Bankman-Fried is looking at it, at least that, if not more. Okay. The Southern District of New York does not play when it comes to financial crimes. Okay. They're known to be pretty brutal. Okay. We know that Bankman-Fried had remained in the Bahamas and he used to live there. We brought him back here after he was arrested in December. We did do an extradition. And like I said, we had to go through a process to get the other 5 charges on top of the 7, because he actually has 12 charges against him, 12 or 13 charges against him. Hey, Beck, nice to see you. But it's true. There's there's a heavy weight, I think, on the co-conspirators who have all actually admitted their parts and testifying. But now they're going to have to actually sit in a courtroom again and face Samuel Bankman-Fried, knowing that they were his roommate, his ex-lover, his good friend, his co-worker, that they all made money together. They all did things together day in and day out, 24/7. And the actual, can you imagine the pressure and the tension in that courtroom when they're facing each other? It's got to be like something else. I don't know. I'd like to take you back to how this was all discovered. And it's just a little note that possibly started the conspiracy stuff. CoinDesk, which reports on cryptocurrency and all of this stuff on a regular basis, live, received a leaked information, and on their website, they actually leaked the Alameda balance sheet, causing a run of funds on FTX, which caused the customers to realize there wasn't enough money there to actually pay it out. If the run never happened, if people didn't start requesting their money, we wouldn't know that the money was not there to be paid out. Okay. So that's where a lot of the speculation comes as to who leaked that to CoinDesk. I mean, there's some talk here that it was CZ from Binance, or he might have had it because it was failed deal and he actually set him up for this deal to pull out, to put him on the ropes, so to speak, so that he could just get him to stop talking to Congress. Who knows? I mean, who really knows except for the players? And I really doubt they're ever really going to tell us unless somebody gets like really big into it. I would have liked more people to have talked to CoffeeZilla and like got down to the actual who actually did what. Like if he is actually taking the fall, we're not saying he didn't do anything illegal, because as far as the dotting the I's and crossing the T, he sunk. Like that's it. He did that. It's against the law, whatever it was, for whatever reason he did it, does not matter. Does the law care why you broke it? Not usually. That usually just goes to leniency to sentence. That doesn't mean you're not guilty. That doesn't mean you don't have to be accountable. That doesn't mean that the people you fleeced at all that money are going to need to get that money back. Usually the reason really doesn't matter. It's just the fact that you did it and it was against the law. That's what the law cares about. That's what the FEC cares about. That's what the SEC, the FTC, and the DOJ all care about. That's what the customers who lost the money care about. Getting it back. Okay. But anyway, oh, then somebody sent me a message and told me that when you use two chessboards and four players, they call that bug house chess. What? I don't know what that is. I don't know how to play that. I guess there's more information, but now I have something to Google after the stream. Okay. One of the accusations that's being made about Samuel Bankman-Fried is that money involving customer funds was used to buy a $30 million six-bedroom penthouse in a resort community in the Bahamas, where these three officials of FTX and Alameda Research, the buddy buddies that are all testifying against Samuel Bankman-Fried, where they all lived with Samuel Bankman-Fried. Okay, so they were living in a home and eating food and playing bug house chess with ill-gotten goods. Okay. They're all dirty, dirty, dirty. And I'm kind of glad that the three of them decided, like, well, it was the wrong thing to do, and I'm just going to testify. Because Ellison, Wang, and Singh are all testifying. That's a good question, Shill. It's probably on the forgotten list. Hold on a minute. Here we go. Banner up. Thank you, Shill. Well, anyway, let's just see what else I have here. All right. Besides the witnesses, there was some stuff that happened over the weekend. Okay. Like I said, the prosecution put forward who they're looking at to bring forward as witnesses. They talked about all the customers, the man from Ukraine that they're flying over, some heart-wrenching stories of loss and how it affected people individually. We do have the three officials of FTX and Alameda Research that all lived with him. Okay. We also have people from FTX. There's been statements made by John Ray that when he took over FTX, it was the most convoluted, complicated, ridiculously baroque accounting system and mess up of entangled companies that he'd ever seen. And just to put that in perspective, John C. Ray III, who took over for, as the actual in-chief, in quotes, if you could see me, I'm doing quotes, in-chief CEO during the bankruptcy. He took the helm just to get them through the bankruptcy, and he had to be approved by the court to stay there, and they did. But this is the man who did the same thing for Enron, and that was a heck of a mess there. If anybody's familiar with some of the things that happened here in the United States politically and legally with Enron, that was a whole mess. And John C. Ray was the one who got great respect for getting through that and getting everybody paid and doing all this stuff. Well, there seems to be a little bit of an issue with John C. Ray as far as Samuel Bankman-Fried is concerned, because he's actually saying John has no right to sit there because John's attorneys are the same attorneys, and he's bringing the Enron guys in that made millions of dollars off of the Enron deal, and that FTX is actually solvent, and you're just looking to get your buddies paid. I mean, he actually put that in a suit. He actually put that out in a press release when he got arrested. He actually made a 14 post thread on Twitter stating about immorality and the actual banking industry say, and if you look at it this way, it's actually in the green, but if you look at it their way, when you're just trying to pay all these other people who don't even have anything to do with it, then it's in the red. And he really was mouthing off a lot about that. And then he got Mark Cohen, his defense lawyer, and it seems like he has quieted him down a little bit since he's been in jail. Well, while he was out, he was making himself a lot of trouble, Samuel Bankman-Fried. Like I said, he got his bail revoked. He got slammed into jail for tampering with witnesses, and also for trying to poke the jury pool with all of these tweets about how it really is in big business and how he knows and nobody else knows, because basically that's how most of the tweets and the articles and all were. Now, I understand he wants to defend himself, and I understand that he feels he has the information, because while he's saying that he's the only one who can straighten out everything, he's also admitting that he's the only one that had total control. So tell me how he's not like shooting himself in the foot with that one. when you go to court and they're saying that you had total control over everything, this is your conspiracy, this is your fraud, you did this, how are you going to try to blame it on all those people below you? Because from what I'm reading, that's one of the only defenses that he could do is the people that are saying I did it are lying or did it themselves, because there's no way to say it didn't happen. Does that make sense? I mean, it does make perfect sense to me. If you come from the business world and you're looking at black and white documentation, SEC has drawn up their own paperwork against him. So has the FTC. This is the Department of Justice's case here that we're talking about from the United States government. However, the individual customers and those investors can all do civil suits against him, because the black and white documentation says it happened. On this day, at this time, customers requested money back and there wasn't any money there to give it to them. So that's how fraud and conspiracy run. The reason the conspiracy actually is on there and most of the charges is due to the fact of the way he moved the money around from company to company outside of regulation. Okay, outside with a clear tie to Alameda Research, besides the fact that he started the companies. Okay, there was no reason for them to be lending back and forth. And even the lending of money requires some regulatory process. And you have to do it the right way. So even if he could have gotten the money from Alameda Research reasonably, they didn't bother to follow the right procedures to make sure that it would be copacetic. And when you're investing other people's money, and here's the problem, as rich and entitled as Samuel Bankman-Fried may be, SBF, he still got people to invest, had customers' accounts opened with their own money to do the investments to try to make money for themselves and for him in the long run. But he was playing with other people's money. That makes it 110 years in jail. This is why Carolyn Ellison is looking at 110 years. And Gary Wang and Ninj Sin and SBF himself, everybody involved, because you don't get to do that with other people's money. Okay, especially under false pretenses, where the fraud comes in. I said I would do it this way. I'm a legitimate company. Your money is somewhat safe with me. They never make a guarantee that you'll make money, but they're supposed to actually guarantee that they won't be breaking the law while they try to make money for you. This didn't happen. Not that way. Not the way it should. All right. Let me get to some of the. One of the other things that happened this weekend, besides the prosecution put forward the witnesses and what they're going to talk about, the actual defense, and like we were talking about the defense, they don't really have much that they can use. So what they did was attack the prosecution's voir dire, their questions for the jury. Okay, the jury process involves a vetting where you get to, both sides get to ask questions, and those questions are given to the judge and they formulate everything together and everybody gets to ask the same thing. Well, it seems like they had quite a problem with the questions. This is the only thing they filed over the weekend. And by the way, he could have changed his plea from not guilty to guilty by the end of day today and avoided this trial. If he did that, it would have been up to Judge Kaplan. If he was guilty, they could have got rid of the guilty, get rid of guilty. No, get rid of not guilty, put in a guilty plea, avoid a trial, and then the judge would set sentencing, and that would be that. But instead, he's choosing to have a trial because he did not come forward by the end of business today to change his plea. In New York, he had until today. He didn't do it. So he wants a trial. And I'm kind of leery about that, because the government did put forward that they're going to have all of the victims coming forward and facing you. And the jury's going to see what the personal stories of loss. Do you guys see a problem with that? I mean, for SBF, not for any of us. Of course, we want justice for them, right? We want them to tell their stories. But why go? I don't get it. Like, if they've got a black and white case on him, he's just either he doesn't see it that way or he really thinks he has something up his sleeve. But his witness list really didn't show anything. It's got some character witnesses on it, and that's really it. There's really, really not a lot more there. So what did they do? They filed this weekend to complain about the questions to the jury. And they said that on behalf of their client, they take personal exceptions to, let's say, question number 3 or whatever question number it was. I do believe it was actually question number 3, because in that question number 3 to the jury, they referred to the fraud committed by Samuel Bankman-Fried instead of the alleged fraud committed by Samuel Bankman-Fried. Now, I'd say they have a point there. That's kind of like telling the jury, like, we just think he did it. Forget it. Not alleged. We're not waiting for you to prove it. He did it. Okay. It does kind of reflect some bias there. So, but really sour grapes, guys, nitpicking a little bit. I really don't see. If this is all that you have, you better really pay attention to those jurors that come in. Like, you're going to be really, really paying attention to those jurors coming in and who you get on that jury. Because it sounds like you already know he's guilty, and you're just going to be depending on the mercy of the juries on how much he gets, how much he has to pay, how long he'll be in jail, whether he has a life, that's just like ridiculous. Another question in these two. Now, that one I could see as being reasonable. The other two are, well, one of the things they're going to ask the jury is if they have any medical problems that could actually pertain to them not being able to serve or, be a problem or anything, in the future, of the trial, or give them some kind of biased opinion on anything that's going out. What? Like, why? Okay. So what's so bad about that? Okay. I don't see. It says, well, they need to say what kind of medical problems and make sure they go into great detail as to what it was. And I'm like, okay, well, I know you want a little more information, but again, it just seemed a little bit of nitpicky, you know? I understand that water is supposed to be like very precise. It's an important method of protecting a defendant's right. We get that. Okay. Because you need an impartial jury, right? We need an impartial jury. You can't have anybody coming in there biased and everything like that, because it's just not, it's not going to be fair, you know? And so you want to make sure that anything that a juror discloses doesn't really bespeak to bias in regards to the defendant or the other way around. Okay. So they argued about his alleged fraud against using just the word simply fraud. And then question 13, 23, and 24. Question 13 was about medical problems that might interfere with service. All right. But they said that you really have to go into emotional, great detail. We want emotional conditions and medications added. Okay. Also, question 23 and 24, that they failed to elicit relevant and necessary information by inquiring about prior grand jury or jury service, because they don't ask them to inquire further about prior service that would cause potential jury to give more credible to the charges, like in greater detail. Okay. 23 and 24, they're asking if they ever did. Okay. And I don't understand why they're nitpicking about that, Actually, question 34 could be a problem, because that one addresses whether or not they have experience with cryptocurrency and digital assets. But it doesn't inquire as to whether that experience would affect the potential jury's impartiality. Now, my answer to all of these questions that they're saying, what do you mean it doesn't inquire as to whether that experience would affect the potential juries? Why do you think we're asking them? Hello, defense team. Why do you think the question is being asked in the first place? Is that not the whole damn I don't know about you guys, but this whole thing was a waste of the judge's time to even read. Okay. It's a standard question, right, Grace? These are standard questions, and they mean to the point of you think it's going to affect your ability to go forward. So basically, they want an extra line added, like, or two extra things on greater detail, more boxes to check that you actually have to say, I won't be biased. It didn't affect anything. But actually, when you ask the question, it gives you the opportunity to ask additional questions to them about it, because both sides get to speak to that juror and ask questions, right? I don't know. And then they had a problem with question 31, which seeks to elicit irrelevant information, because the question asked whether the potential jurors or their close friends or relatives have ever been stopped or questioned by law enforcement. Why do they care? I think they would want to know if you have all right. Why do they not want that in there? Can you guys guess? They don't want to know if anybody on the jury has a predisposition to think badly of the police or law enforcement, regulatory commissions in general. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Okay, so basically, when I give you my medical problems, you're allowed to give me the third degree. But don't let the prosecution ask if you've ever had any problem with law enforcement. Like, that's a foul. That's prejudicial to Samuel Bankman-Fried. I don't get it. I don't see how that's prejudicial. And I do believe the judge is going to allow all of the questions in and just ask for additional information. I do not see him pulling it. He will probably change the wording of the other question to put the word alleged in there, alleged fraud, because, like, besides all the I's being dotted and the T's being crossed as far as the financial records are concerned, and the evidence that they're going to, 1,000,000 pages of documentation, people going to hit that court. Besides all of that, he's not guilty yet. The jury hasn't given a verdict. So the word alleged is appropriate. And out of all of the questions and the 5 or 6 pages that they had to just in the middle of the night get over there to the judge this weekend, I would say number 1 is the only thing that they're going to get. But, that's just my that's just my look at it. I don't know if this link might be too big and I didn't shorten it. Hold on. Let me just see. For those of you that are interested in reading the long stuff, like the goopy stuff, I'm trying to copy this link for you here. Let's see. Go to the original. Here's the letter. Here we go. And also, this motion was done in letter standard, which is acceptable in the court in the Southern District in New York. This came from the defense, and this lovely one, which is much better presented with a shorter link, and I'd say better case review, is from the prosecution in regards to the witnesses that they would go. So there you go. On that, I'm going to go through the chat and see if we have any questions, because that's my update. Tomorrow, we go to jury selection. The whole response reeks of flirt, caught in crosshairs kind of defense. Exactly. It's just like, can I just stall you up with some paperwork here? Because, like, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed at you. And if I'm annoyed at you, I'm going to make you annoyed at me. There you go. It's too dangerous for them to let them live free. They had to lock me up because they were afraid. Okay. Sitting in jail should be the ego knock to that smartest person in the room belief, or does it reinforce it? In this case, it looks like it gives him a lot of time to think about how wonderful he is and how he's going to get away with this. He's still trying to make, contact with people and things like that, but it's been stopped. I guess we're going to tell. I can't wait to watch the news from this, because here's the thing. In New York, we don't have cameras in the courtroom. We're going to get reporting. They are allowed to have the reporters there. And like I said, the reason this one's important is this will be groundbreaking. What happens here to Samuel Bankman-Fried should be actually giving everybody the quakes in the cryptocurrency world. Because if it can happen to him, It sure is going to happen to all of them. Okay. He's the big one. And if they get the money out of him and they get the guilty out of him and he goes away for a long time, the fact that they got everybody to fold so easily and give testimony is a reason to quake through the industry. Okay. And if they can find a way to make this like so terrible for the rest of the industry, they're going to have to stop the way they do things in certain industry. Now they do follow the regulations. Like it depends on where you are. There's different regulations everywhere that you're doing this trading. American here in the United States, we have some regulation on it, but perhaps not enough. But they are actually in the end, when they're trading to make money to pay their bills through the FTC and the SEC, they have to follow those regulations, regardless of where the money originally comes from, whether it's cryptocurrency or not. It gets turned into regular tradable under regulation here in the United States as it goes through the process. End of story, right? You do whatever you want with it after, right? So they're going to have to follow regulations. And so they are probably combining those two ways of looking at things through cryptocurrency and regular, trade commission. It's mind-boggling. Okay, but they are going to have to follow those regulations, and if he can go down, any of them could. Because Samuel Bankman-Fried, one thing he has said over and over and over again in his statements is he did not go outside the regulatory commissions, that he followed the rules the way he was, that these are their loopholes and their holes in their regulations and their interpretation. Yes, he said that. Their interpretation on what those regulations are. I kid you not. If he pled guilty, it would mean admitting to having been beaten and in his mind not being the smartest person in the room. Yeah, there you go. You mean like it was a game to him? Like, he was an entrepreneur kind of guy that, like, he didn't wear fancy clothes. I mean, he lived in fancy houses. He went everywhere he wanted. He had exquisite food, mostly vegan. He got whatever he wanted, but he also wore the same clothes for a week, didn't shower. He had a very sedate kind of lifestyle. He didn't go out a lot. He wasn't extravagant. And he did make a lot of donations and believe in a lot of causes and try to foster businesses that were ecologically sound, trying to motivate industries in underdeveloped places. So when I call him entitled, it's not so much how he operated those profits. It's more in how he's dealing with this right now and how he's speaking and thinking he didn't do anything wrong. Because I think it's hard to go from the gilded spoon where you can do whatever you want, even if you good causes that he was doing it for, and have that all taken away and say you did it for all the, not looking at what he did and saying he did it for all the wrong reasons, just saying he didn't, he didn't dot an I or cross a T, which is actually what he thinks he's being accused of. He said it repeatedly. The sheer amount of DNA you leave behind at a crime scene. Also, what do you do with the body? I don't know what that has to do with crypto crime, but okay. I'm sorry. I should really read more detail in before I pull them up. Unregulated lending is loan sharking. Yup. Yes, it is. Yep. Like, you might be good at murder, but you're likely to think about how to hide your tracks from a forensic botanist. Oh, so you're talking about my comments about forensic accounting. Yes, if he intended to steal the money, there are ways. People make like double books, but it's very expensive to do because you really do have to cross the I's and dot the I's and cross the T's, because any mistake can lead to finding the other set of books. Okay, absolutely. Okay. You know what, Mousy, this is true. And so, yeah, hold on one second. First of all, Logan Paul is dumb. We've got other scandals going on with him with cryptocurrency and the CryptoZoo game. He still has not paid back the CryptoZoo purchasers who he made the deal with because something wasn't working. He was going to give back some money. The whole thing went up, and it's been quite some time. I think it's almost going on a year now. and he has not actually refunded $1, not one, but he's suing people instead. You know what? I do agree. Okay, now that we're done talking about Samuel Bankman-Fried, I got 5 minutes to wrap up. I'll give you some channel news. Number one, during this week, I will be putting out a small, short live in regards to where the ears are and how I'm going to get them back. Mousy, I see you're noting there. I do admit that Tiny Squid is missing too, but those ears are like too big for Tiny Squid to do anything with. Like, he would have to be working with an alien that would actually zap them and make them tiny squid size so that he could run away with them. And, I heard that aliens are pricey this time of year. I don't think you could get one to cooperate. So I'm going to scrap that one, for now. I really don't think Tiny Squid had anything to do with it. But I do hope that he comes out of hiding soon. I do. But besides besides coming forward with what I've decided is exactly the appropriate punishment for who I do believe is responsible for my missing years, we're also going to do a true crime update tomorrow. We've got a couple of cases that need to be updated. There's some stuff's going on. 2 of them are 27 years old. Yes, you heard right. 27 years old, both of them. And I thought I would do them together and update them. And I've got some other things going on with some of the other cases that we've been following. There's been some more transmittal of information back and forth through the court system and some other little peeps of information, just like a standard update of multiple different things. On Wednesday, we're doing a political update, which involves most of the Trump cases. Trump will be in court on Monday. And also, Judge Chaikin, there's a hearing. The defendants are also in the process of their trial right now, Cheeseborough and Powell. And we'll just be updating some of those. We also still have the cases out of Florida. We've got the civil lawsuit put by the AG in New York that actually just did some gang-busting moves against Trump and Trump organization that we're going to outline for you there. But because there were so many, we're going to do a separate episode on Wednesday, and we're going to do that more in the day, so we have a couple more hours to do it. So those of you that only have your evening free, I hope you'll at least try to watch the replay, just so that you can get those cases more familiar with them too. I've been getting a lot of questions about them, so that's why I decided to do another rundown of all of them individually. On Thursday, we will be with the challenge again. However, the channel is to be announced. I don't know where yet, but I do know we're going to be talking about the best comedy scene that was not intended to be a comedy scene. In other words, it's funny AF, but it's not in a rom-com or a comedy. So actually isn't that the funniest thing when somebody actually attended something to be serious and it's just this fall down on your face, laughing hysterical. Yeah, that's what we have to do. And I need help, people. Send me your suggestions. I will take them on the back of videos. I will take them on DM. Just leave them for me, please. Send me some ideas. I do have one particular one that I am quite fond of right now that I want to go with, but it's so ridiculously easy because it's the first one to pop in mind that I just want to have some other options to make a more beneficial, shall I say, presentation, more informative and more entertaining in some way. On Friday, we got more true crime, as if Monday and Tuesday is not enough. And then we got to throw in legal updates on Wednesday. On Friday, we're actually going to talk Scientology and Scientology and Scientology and Scientology. There are multiple lawsuits going on against Scientology again, and there have been some major moves by other countries that put through some legislation in regards to Scientology that I would like to tell you about. So we'll have ourselves an early evening. I'm not going to interfere with any of the other streams. We'll be doing it earlier, like say 6 o'clock or so 6 or 7. Try to get you guys in and out so that you can attend some of the late night streams heading into the weekend. And then, of course, we've got the weekend, and we'll all talk about that tomorrow. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to call it a night. I wish you all well. Thank you very much for listening to me with all the abbreviations. How many times? I mean, that's a good Pollard game would be, how many times did the bear actually mispronounce Samuel Bankman-Fried during this stream? Because, like, I counted quite a few. Actually, I was getting tongue-tied. He's got a lot of nerve, that pretentious a-hole, having such a difficult name for me to get out, like, consistently like that. But hey, everybody gets their 15 minutes on that. Y'all have a good night. I know I'm laughing all the way till trial tomorrow. I'll see you guys.